A surveyor wants to find the distance between two houses across from each other on a small pond. From one house, she walks off a distance of 160 feet and places a marker. From the marker, she measures an angle of 48 degrees between the houses. She then measures a distance of 135 feet between the marker and the other house. How far apart are the houses? All right, so just like with all of the story problems, we are going to start by drawing a picture of the situation. So if we kind of go back and read through the problem, so we're trying to find the distance between two houses across from each other. So here's house 1 and house 2. Okay. Let's see, and we are trying to find that distance, so I'm just going to put my X there. From one house, she walks off a distance of 160 feet and places a marker. So I'm just going to pick house 1. I'm going to go 160 feet in this direction. And there is the marker. Okay, and then just to close the triangle, I'm going to connect the marker to house 2. Okay. So from the marker, she measures an angle of 48 degrees between the houses. Okay, so our 48 degrees is here. So she then measures a distance of 135 feet between the marker and the other house. So from this marker to my other house is 135 feet. Okay. How far apart are the houses? Okay. So we have been given side, angle, side. So that tells me that we're using the law of cosine. If I'm going to start with this side and I'm just plugging numbers into the formula. And I'm going to take the square root right away. So our x is going to equal the square root of 160 squared plus 135 squared minus 2 times 160 times 135 times the cosine of 48. Okay. And at this point, I'm ready to type that in. If you want, you can simplify, but we don't need to. Okay. And remember, if you haven't checked, make sure that your calculator is in degree mode. And I'm just going to type all this in, starting with the square root. So 160 squared plus 135 squared minus 2 times 160 times 135. And remember, we can do the multiplication symbol or the parentheses. And then cosine of 48. And you can put a multiplication symbol in between those two things, but you don't have to. Okay. So 122.14 feet is how far apart the houses are. Okay. All right, next problem. It tells us we have two boats leave a harbor sailing on bearings that have an angle of 118 degrees between them. Okay, so if I just make this my harbor, now this is the land, the boats have to go this way. So one of them is gonna go this way, and then here's the other one. And the angle between them is 118, so my picture is not to scale. And then it says in 10 hours, one boat sails 62 nautical miles and the other 73. And we want to know how far apart the boats are. So this is my boat 1 and boat 2. And we're trying to find that distance. So the setup is going to be the exact same as my previous problem. So again, I'm given side, angle, side. And then I'm trying to find this side. So I'm going to go right into the square root part. So we'll have 62 squared plus 73 squared minus 2 times 62 times 73. And then the cosine of 118. And again, I'm just going to type all of that in exactly how it looks. Okay, so second square root, 62 squared plus 73 squared, and the order that you put those in doesn't matter. Minus 2 times 62 times 73 times the cosine of 118. So they are about 115.86 nautical miles apart. And again, don't forget to label your answers since we are given units for these problems.